The territory of Greece is known as the cradle of European civilization, having been home to the famed Minoans of Crete, the warlike Mycenaeans and their numerous successors that would go on to establish an early democratic state in Athens, a militaristic society in Sparta, and eventually a vast Hellenistic empire founded by Alexander the Great of Macedon. All of these were preceded by simple communities of the Stone Age, which would over time evolve into more complex cultures out of which the first civilizations on the European soil were born. The period that we today know as the Neolithic Greece can be dated to approximately 7000 BCE, marking the transitions of the Mesolithic hunter-gathering proto-communities into the more advanced societies centered around agriculture. The Neolithic or agricultural revolution originated in the Middle East, where the mobile groups of hunter-gatherers eventually evolved into sedentary communities, abandoning the nomadic lifestyle and basing themselves in the first built-up villages, their permanent homes. From the Middle East, this practice eventually spread towards Europe, reaching the Aegean at about 7000 BCE and marking the beginning of the earliest Neolithic, also known as the Pre-Ceramic Period, in Greece. The first Neolithic settlements were established between 7000 and 6800 BCE at Knossos on the island of Crete, as well as the already existing Francti and Theopetra caves on the Greek mainland. While Knossos was established as a small village, likely numbering around 50 to 100 inhabitants, the caves on Francti in Argolis and Theopetra in Thessaly were rather continuations of Mesolithic and earlier Paleolithic proto-communities. These settlements typically consisted of numerous one-room huts, partially dug into the ground in close proximity to each other, inhabited by extended families or clans. As the first plants were domesticated, the early Neolithic Greeks cultivated and farmed crops such as wheat, barley, lentils, and peas. Stock rearing was also introduced, with the animal husbandry consisting of the raising of cattle, goats, sheep, pigs, and dogs. The already existing activities such as fruit gathering, fishing, and hunting were continued and even expanded, giving a general overview of the early Neolithic economy. Several other settlements were established in this pre-ceramic period, such as ones at Argissa and Sasklo in Thessaly, and another near the present-day village of Dendra in Argolis. The site at Francti was expanded outside the original cave, where a permanent coastal settlement was built. The houses were constructed with stone foundations, indicating a significant settlement of this early period. The burials were also conducted in the same area, close to the houses and within the settlement borders. Across the sea lay the volcanic island of Malos, which was thus visited for the exploitation of obsidian, a volcanic glass material that is formed when the volcano lava rapidly cools down. Such material was used for manufacture of sharp tools and weapons, a practice also present from the Mesolithic times. As there is no evidence of permanent human settlement on Malos until several thousands of years later, it is more than likely that the island was used for the periodic material supply. At Argissa, the inhabitants lived in oval subterranean huts with walls made of posts, with the floors paved with pebbles and clay. The tools and weapons excavated at the site revealed that they were made of bone and polished stone, but also materials such as flint and obsidian, which were used to produce sharp blades. As obsidian did not originate in Argissa, it reached the settlement in the form of cores, from which the weapons were subsequently made. The pre-ceramic period lasted until 6500 BCE, when the early pottery technology was introduced throughout the region. The ware objects were formed with clay and other ceramic materials, and then fired at high temperatures, getting a hard and durable form, thus giving birth to pots, cups, vases, figurines, and other pottery of the ancient Greece. The construction of hearths and early ovens also took place between the huts, and those were commonly used for heating and cooking by the inhabitants. By 6000 BCE, a number of other early Neolithic settlements developed throughout Greece, such as Neonicomedia in the region of Macedon and Pharsalus and the area of Phthia. The site at Neonicomedia consisted of houses made from timber posts, which were freestanding. Posts were also placed in the interiors of the buildings, supporting the roof made of branches, reeds, and clay. In the following centuries, rectangular timber post dwellings were also built, as well as larger constructions surrounded by several smaller square buildings. These constructions are believed by archaeologists to be the first signs of early shrines or settlement centers, because both of their size and numerous figurine and other objects found inside. The burial practices of this period generally included three types. The first, and likely the most common one, was based on the simple pit graves, as recorded in Francti, Argissa, and Neonicomedia. The second, less prominent practice included the collection of bones, which would be positioned in layers beneath the floor inside the houses. A notable example of this practice occurred at the site of Prodromos in Karditsa, in Thessaly. The third and extremely rare method was cremation of the dead, which would not really gain prominence until thousands of years later. However, the early form of this practice did occur in the Neolithic period. Also in Thessaly, as well as Argolis, very small pits containing charred bones and monochrome vases were discovered, together with a larger room that served as crematorium. The region of Thessaly, or Aeolis as the later Mycenaeans called it, thus represented one of the main and most populous areas of early Neolithic times. To the south of Thessaly, the settlement of Sesklo also began to expand from its initial small area on the Kastraki hill. Surrounded by fertile soil and access to large amount of water, as well as direct link to both mountains of Pelion and the sea at the Gulf of Pagasai, Sesklo had everything necessary to evolve uninterrupted from a small hut-based pre-ceramic and early Neolithic settlement to a leading center of the Middle Neolithic period. Special thanks to History with Sai, Nico, Chris Ernst, Panayotis Yiannopoulos, Fred Leckie, ABC Sheikh, Derek Wildstar, Vineyard Illuminations, and Estate Care for their continuous support. If you wish to join our Patreon community and partake in the decision-making on the future content, feel free to click the link in the video description. This was WanaxTV, and we will see you again soon.